Mr. Speaker. I do realize the result of this amendment probably. There is another Latin phrase besides nunc pro tunc, which is moritore te salutante, which is basically we who are about to die salute you. I understand the votes today and I see them, but I find it hard to fathom with the American public and my colleagues on the other side of the aisle who are indeed concerned about the deficit, not going at the place where you can really get to the deficit, which is in spending in the defense budget. That's Moby Dick. You don't throw your swords or your harpoons at a minnow. You throw your harpoon at the whale. This is the whale. And Captain Ahab had a good point. You know, you go out there and you see the big one, you go for it. This would reduce the funds we're given to the Afghanistan security forces by $4 billion. It wouldn't take all of it. It'd keep two-thirds. They'd still have two-thirds, but reduce it by $4 billion and return those funds to help the deficit. The $12.8 billion that is currently allocated to this fund is nearly equivalent to the entire GDP of Afghanistan. Their GDP is $14 to $16 billion. Let's understand this, Mr. Speaker. We are giving the Afghanistan people their entire GDP, and we're borrowing it from China and other places. This makes no sense, and we need to go after the bail. 6 times the total annual revenue of the Afghan government, which is approximately $1.5 billion, is what we're giving them. I understand these funds will be used to provide assistance to the security forces of Afghanistan, including training and providing equipment, supplies, and services. Well, I've seen soldiers killed over there, my constituents, that were killed by Afghanistan soldiers that we trained. We don't know which ones are Taliban and which ones are going to turn on us, and we're training them and giving them weapons. Roughly $6 billion of the 12.8 is for salaries and benefits. In light of the President's announcement of withdrawing troops from Afghanistan, we need to make reductions all around, and that includes a reduction for these security forces. This country could not, should not, fund the structure that the Afghanistan government cannot fund, and at a time when we need to take a look at our deficit. Now, I've heard General Petraeus' name over there. I'm a fan of General Petraeus, too. But he's sometimes wrong. He's sometimes wrong. Now, I think he was for us supporting the president in Libya. And some of the folks over there that are so supportive of General Petraeus wasn't so supportive of General Petraeus then. So they understand he's not always right. And he's not right on these funds either. These troops are not going to be trained in a way that they're going to be able to sustain the forces. They're not going to use the weapons. They're not going to be able to resupply them. It's going to be a waste. General Mike Mullen talked about our debt being our biggest security threat. And accordingly, we need to readjust our priorities and find realistic ways to reduce our deficit. This is a way we can do it and save $4 billion. Still give them $8.8 billion. It's plenty. I'd like to see it all cut. But I realize that's not realistic. But we are pulling out. We're not going to be able to train those troops to where they're going to be able to maintain the fund to pay those troops in the future. Most of it's salaries. And when we're gone, they're not going to have the salaries. I've been to Afghanistan. You've been to Afghanistan. It's beyond third world. It's fourth world. And we're giving them the last of our dollars. If you really, 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 really care about reducing the deficit, you got to go for the whale. You got to go for the defense budget. And just giving this money to Afghanistan is, I think, a dereliction of duty. I reserve.
The gentleman reserves.